part of our presentation this evening, or the slides, will be around any information that we maybe were not able to cover in the resources that we have created based on your questions. So we want to thank you for that. And then the second portion of the presentation this evening will all be a review of the resources that we have created. So let's go ahead and take a look at our desired outcomes this evening. So by the end of the evening, we're just going to give you, hopefully you've received some Durant updates of what's been going on around here. We're going to talk about Virtual Academy and the window of when the spring registration is, and of course Plan B and what that's going to look like. And then we're going to give you an overview of the procedures and structures of the plans that we have in place to welcome our students back on campus starting on November 9th. So starting with some updates, just a reminder that our first quarter ended on September 30th, and that report cards were posted in PowerSchools on October 23rd. Due to everyone learning virtually, of course, we did not print out report cards or send those home with students because they were learning virtually, of course. So if you have not had an opportunity to log into your child's PowerSchool and take a look of their grades and their report card from first quarter, we encourage you to do that. We do want to, speaking of PowerSchool, we still have quite a few individuals or families that have not registered or received PowerSchool access, so we're going to encourage everyone to do that. We still have 182 families that in 6th grade, we have 144 families and 184 in 8th grade that do not have access. So we just want to encourage you, if you don't have it, to please, 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 this is the way that you are going to keep up with your students' progress academically. Through PowerSchools, also the way that you are going to learn anything about your bus routes as well. All right, so we have some celebrations here talking about first quarter. We had overall 289, almost 300 students that achieved either honor roll or principals list. So 193 of our Dolphins made honor roll this first quarter, and 96 of our students made principals list. So we do want to celebrate that. That was not an easy task, as no one has ever learned virtually before for the first quarter. So we want to congratulate those students. And then we want to talk about our second quarter materials pickup. We had our materials pickup on October 16th, I believe it was, and we had a great turnout. We are down to only 100 bags of materials left to hand out or get to students. So right now we are almost at 800 students who have already received their second quarter materials. If you have not done so, please stop by the school on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, since Tuesday will be an asynchronous day for us, anywhere between 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Just ring the doorbell and we'll be happy to bring that out to you. And then our final thing that we want to share with you is we are so excited that we are welcoming our new staff member officially on Friday, November 6th. Once we knew that we were moving and transitioning to our Plan B students returning on campus, we made the decision to hire a 7th grade social studies teacher to help level the playing field and balance out our schedules in that particular grade level. So Mr. Zeke Bailey will be joining us. Like I said, his official first day will be on Friday, November 6th, and he will be ready to roll on November 9th. Mr. Bailey is coming to us from Durham, so we are excited to welcome him. All right, so let's start and talk about Virtual Academy and the window as far as the registration. So the registration opened in October, and it lasts until, and it closes on November 4th. And this is for secondary schools, so middle and high schools. We know, and the district realizes, that many parents were requesting for the window to be open longer to be able to return to campus and see how the students were doing. Unfortunately, because of the complexity of schedules in secondary school, the district was not able to push that window any further. I know some folks were wanting to go through the first 3 rotations of the cohorts. However, that would push us back into December. And as I mentioned, the complexity of trying to schedule and staff all of the learning platforms would be very difficult. So it does close on November 4th, which is just 2 days away. So who does that mean, and who needs to be considering Virtual Academy? So really everyone needs to be considering what it is that's best for their family starting in the spring. So if you happen to sign up for Virtual Academy for the full year, and you want to change your mind and return to Plan B and return to campus for your student, you are welcome, or have the opportunity to change your mind and to register for, you won't register for Plan B, but you can change your registration option. If by chance you only registered for Virtual Academy for this first semester and you're interested to continue that, you can go ahead and register for the spring. If you registered for the full year and you want to continue in Virtual Academy, there's nothing that you need to do. If you registered for Virtual Academy for the semester and you want your student to come back on campus and be in Plan B, there is nothing for you to do as well. And even for those that have never registered for Virtual Academy but are interested, that needs to happen by November 4th. So everyone needs to take some time to review, realizing the fact that there are still a lot of unknowns. I know a lot of questions are coming in regards to, will our teachers stay consistent? Will we keep our same teachers? And the unfortunate answer to that is we just don't know yet. Staffing and scheduling will all depend on the number of students that we do have registered for Virtual Academy and how many students will be in Plan B. So as soon as we have that information, starting probably in early December, we will share that information with you. And I know that's not helpful as far as you trying to make a decision that's based for your family. Right now, what I can tell you, if consistency is how your student learns best, or that's best for your family, Virtual Academy is probably a choice that you would like to highly consider. All right, so let's talk about our Plan B transition that we know is coming in just a week, 4 short days, if you will. So we are starting on Monday, November 9th with our cohort 3C. And people might have a question of why we're starting with 3C. And the purpose of this, so we can align with our elementary schools who have already started their rotations, and this way that siblings and families will be in the same cohort and on the same schedule. So on November 9th, cohort 3C will be there. For when we knew, when it was determined that we would open virtually, and with the intent of bringing students back on campus as soon as possible, as soon as it was deemed safe, we started making a plan of what that would look like and how we could make the least transitions as possible for both our students and our staff, and the least amount of disruption as we could to their schedule. So we put a few things in place from the get-go for that plan to try to help with that. One of the things that we did is that we made sure that we aligned all of our content classes so we can make the least amount of schedule changes possible. We also wanted to make sure that there were very few teachers, if any, that would be teaching simultaneously our virtual learning and or in-person learning at the same time. We also realized that in order for that to happen, that we made a plan that our students would have a set of core teachers in person and a set of core teachers remote. Keeping in mind that one of those sets of teachers would continue to be teachers that they were currently assigned to. For example, your student might be assigned to all in-person teachers. We have 4 in-person teachers per grade level now that we were able to hire that 7th grade social studies teacher, Mr. Bailey. And then the rest of our teachers will be remote teachers. So your student, if you're in Plan B, will continue with either their in-person teacher, the same teachers, or the remote teachers. So we did that so they would have already been comfortable and had built relationships with that particular teacher. We've also ensured that our core teachers, PLTs, or their content were working very closely together, no matter if they were teaching remotely or if they were teaching in person. And the purpose for that is so everyone within a 3-week period will be getting the same material, similar lessons, depending on if it was remote or in person, regardless of whether they were in their in-person rotation or if they were in their 2 weeks out of rotation, off-campus rotation. So we've done a whole lot of planning. Another question that we know that has come up is when students are on their 2 weeks remote learning, that they will continue to follow our web-based structure, just like they have been. It'll be the same amount, it'll start on the same time that they start now. It'll be the same amount of live learning that they have with the work sessions in place. We also, our PLTs are working closely together. We're going to have some of these conversations tomorrow during our PLTs of grading and what does that look like. And in most cases, the teacher of record or the teacher that they've been working with currently will continue to grade their work. Because the teachers are going to be working so closely together, and that is who they have gotten to know and become comfortable with. So long story short, I want to let you know that we have from the beginning had a plan in place to make sure that we are, like I said, the fewest disruptions and transitions that we possibly can do for both our students and our staff moving forward. The only exceptions that we will have with this are some of our special education classes. Those that you won't have, some of our special education classes will not change teachers or have more than one. The math class is taught by Miss Ernest. She is, I think, the only teacher in our building that will be teaching simultaneously, remotely, and in person. And those are with her 3 math classes. And then our elective classes, we have structured them just a little bit differently. They will continue to teach their remote classes just like they've been doing. However, we have structured it to where they can also teach in person, not at the same time. It'll be 2 separate periods. So we've been able to schedule, since they are singletons and elective teachers, we'll continue to teach your children remotely when they are off campus, and we'll also teach them in person when they are on. So those are the only exceptions. So we're excited that your elective teachers will not change at all, and that will stay consistent. A question has come up of whether students will transition or move between classes. And the answer to that question is yes. Our students will be changing classes and transitioning. We have created structures and procedures here at our school to make sure that we are able to do that safely, following our social distancing guidelines and pathways within the hallways. We have laid down floor signage that will help students realize what 6 feet apart is. We have also made sure that we have done everything we could possibly do to move in one direction in the hallways at all times. So we have worked really hard with the staff over the past couple of 2 or 3 weeks to really make sure that we are all comfortable with the procedures and structures that we have in place to help our students move safely in the hallway and changing classes. All right, so to continue with our Plan B transition, it's important that our Plan B students only attend school on campus when their assigned cohort is assigned to be on campus. And that is for social distancing. So we have made sure that there is no class at any time that will be over a certain number of students based on a certain classroom. So it'll be very important for students only attend school on their assigned time. Like I said, our students will be on a 3-week rotation. We will start with 3C. Students will be on campus 1 week, and then they will be learning remotely for 2 weeks. We did create calendars for each cohort, as we realized the calendar that was created by the district could have been a little confusing for families. So we created a calendar for 1A, 2B, and 3C. So students and families would be able to see specifically of when the students should be on campus and when they should be learning remotely. Those calendars were included in the materials pickup bag. There's also going to be a link on the slides here, and we also have it on our website in case that you need to reference it there. We also created schedules knowing that we needed to communicate with our students and our families of what their in-person schedule looked like, including what teacher they were assigned and what their remote schedule looked like, including teachers that they were assigned. So our staff worked really hard, our core teachers worked really hard, and our elective teachers worked really hard to create these schedules, and they were emailed to your students on Friday, October 30th. So if you haven't had a chance to see that, please make sure that you talk with your student and check their email for their Plan B schedule. You will see two schedules. On the first page, you will see an in-person schedule and what that looks like I said, what teachers they're assigned to, and then right underneath that will be a cohort calendar, just like it is in this link of when they should be on campus and when they're learning remotely. The second page is their web-based calendar or schedule, excuse me, and what teachers they're assigned to, and then underneath that is our updated web-based schedule. So it should be very clear to the student and to the families of which schedule they should be following and when they should be on campus and when they're learning remotely, and then what that looks like. We are spending this week really preparing our students every single day. We're giving them some information, and one of the things that we're doing is reviewing their schedules with them and helping them understand how to read it. We will also have them, their in-person and web-based schedule for Plan B students printed out for them when they do arrive on campus for the first time through their cohorts. So we're going to be handing it to them in several ways, but wanted to let you know that they were emailed to your students on Friday, October 30th. So we've had some questions around devices and what do we do? So it is encouraged for our students to bring devices to school. This includes the Chromebooks that if they receive a Chromebook from Wake County to bring those back and forth from school, and or students have the opportunity to bring personal devices if they so choose to do so. So again, we're asking our students to bring their devices back and forth to school. We will be working, each teacher will be working what it looks like in their classroom to make sure that the students are able to charge their device, but we will ask if you can work with your student, it will be helpful if they can charge those each night and come with a charged device. Devices will be kept in their backpacks when they are not in use. We will not be using lockers at this time, so all of their students' materials will be kept with them and carried with them from class to class. And I know there's been some questions around what about PE and what is it going to look like? Will the device be safe? We have worked with our Health to Living teachers that students will enter the gym through one door, all other doors will be locked. There is be a space for students to put their materials down within the gym. If the weather permits, students will be going outside for any active PE classes, and the gym doors will be locked when there is nobody in there, and they will be unlocked, of course, when the students return. So that is the best way. We will not be using the locker rooms or locks there. There will be a space within the gym. All doors will be locked, and then when students return, and there will always be adults supervising within the gym as well. There is a BYOD form required for any student that brings a device on campus. That was included in the principal's message this past Sunday, and we will continue to include that. It was also in your grade level newsletters, and it will be included on our website as well. So if by chance that your student will be bringing a device on campus, they will need the BYOD form filled out, and we will be keeping that on file here at our school. It was also in our materials bag that you picked up for your second quarter materials bag. So with all of this, the district has decided that we will have at least one remote learning or asynchronous day per most weeks, I will not say every single week. Our first asynchronous day is tomorrow, not our first one, but this week's will be tomorrow on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. I believe that is the only Tuesday for the rest of this semester that doesn't fall on a Wednesday. And the reason for that is because it's election day tomorrow. We are a polling site, so the district has highly encouraged Wake County Public School System employees to telework and to make that an asynchronous day for our students. The asynchronous days and the remote learning days have really been created to support both our students and our staff, and to give them time to get caught up in their work, and as well as our staff members to get caught up with anything that needs to go there. So it's a time for students to continue to work. There will be lessons and assignments for students to complete, but it's not any extra that they would do on a normal day. Attendance will be taken based on the students submitting their work, and it won't be taken until 3 o'clock. On remote and asynchronous days, students can work on their materials anytime during the day. They don't have to follow any schedule. The only piece that they do have to do is make sure that they have submitted the work to get counted for that period by no later than 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So our first, let's back up there. Our first asynchronous or day going forward from here is November 3rd. I want to mention that next week is a holiday on November 11th. So that is a holiday. There'll be no asynchronous learning day there. And then the next week is November 18th. That falls on a Wednesday. And then the other little caveat there is that November 23rd and 24th, those are 2 days before the Thanksgiving holiday that the district has deemed to be asynchronous remote learning days. So just to let you know that falls a little bit differently. So that Monday and Tuesday, and then the rest of that week is a holiday. The same thing is going to happen within December as well. So let's talk about sixth grade sync up. And we felt like it was important that we provided our sixth grade students an opportunity to walk through our doors and on our campus for a few minutes before their first day, realizing that they most of them have not been to Durant before. So we have created our sixth grade sync up opportunity for this Friday, November 6th, for only our Plan B students. And so there are 3 sixth grade sync ups that we have planned for each cohort. And the reason we're doing this is for our students to come in cohorts, and so we can make sure that we are social distancing. Only our students will be coming in on campus. We'll be asking our parents to use the carpool to drop off their students. And our students will be screened, including a temperature check and some health guideline questions before they exit their vehicles. And we do, or not ask, but all of our students have to wear a mask the entire time they are on campus. So Friday, November 6th is going to be an asynchronous day for our 6th grade students only. Our 7th and 8th grade students will continue with their learning. However, our 6th grade students on this Friday, November 6th, will have an asynchronous day. So again, our cohort 1A will be from 8:30 to 9:30. Our cohort 2B will be 11 to 12, and our cohort 3C will be 1:30 to 2:30. We did include an itinerary for students and families in our principal's message this past week. So if you'll click on that link, if you were able to get that, and scroll down depending on what cohort that you're in. It's important too that you only come during your assigned cohort time, again, for that social distancing piece. One thing I want to mention about to back up, and I apologize, I'm out of order here about that asynchronous day. Once we start, students return starting on November 9th. Asynchronous days and remote learning days are for all students, regardless if they are Plan B, on in-person learning on campus that week, whether they're learning remotely, as well as our virtual academy. So again, making sure that everyone understands that that asynchronous learning and remote learning day is for everybody. All right. Okay, so at this point, I talked about that we have created a couple of resources for our families. Mr. Kleiber, Ms. Edwards, I'm going to stop here and pause for a second of everything that I have presented thus far. Are there any burning questions just based on the things that we have presented up to this point that might need to be answered?
Hi, Ms. Faircloth. I think you've covered most of the questions that have been in the chat. I do know there was a question about the use of face coverings during PE, but I think this next part, you're going to be covering that. So I think everything else we should be good.
Perfect. Thank you. And so, yes, we're going to cover that in just a second. So what you're about to see, these are slides that we have created. As I mentioned, we're going to be emailing this out. We're going to be posting them on our website for access. And to be honest, we are also utilizing these slides with our students this week. As I mentioned, that we're utilizing this week to kind of orient our students and be ready to return to campus starting next week. So we've chunked these slides into different lessons or segments and sharing this on a daily basis with our students. So let's talk about what the reopening procedures for our Plan B families. The first thing that you're going to see is a table of contents. We have this resource will be in both English and Spanish. Your table of contents is much like a bookmark to where if you click on a certain link, it'll take you right there, but these are the topics that will be covered. So the first thing we are going to talk about is face coverings. So our face coverings are required by all students, and unless they have a medical accommodation, and you can find out more about that on the in the Return to Campus guide from Wake County. The only time that students will be removing their face coverings or their mask is when they're eating their meals. So if they're actively eating or drinking, they can take their masks off. If we have any type of mask breaks, if your teacher has decided to do so, it has been recommended that we do that outside and that our students are no more than or are spaced out 8 to 10 feet apart, which is more than the typical 6 feet that that we'll be dealing with there. I'm going to go ahead and answer the PE question here. Some questions have been will there be face masks worn in PE? And there will be face masks worn in PE. Our Healthful Living teachers have been meeting with the district department and having these conversations and are planning activities, even though they will be physically active and we will be outside for the most part if weather permits, that they are planning activities to where it doesn't necessarily fall into that strenuous exercise. So it'll be activities that they can do with their face masks on. Also, since we have talked last that for band and chorus, so there will be, students will not be able to play an instrument on campus, and we won't be singing, which is different, has changed recently. So unless things change again, we will not be singing in chorus and we will not be playing instruments, and both of those teachers are working very hard to plan activities to still continue with the skills and learning the objectives and standards that they need to be teaching without actually playing and singing there as well. So we've already talked about the cohort rotations. We have a calendar up here just for folks to be able to take a look and see when who is in on campus and at what time. As I mentioned a million times, our cohort 3C will be starting out on the 9th. Then we'll go cohort 1A. The next week, we do have our Thanksgiving holiday, and I already mentioned those 2 remote learning days, and then our cohort 2B will be joining us for the last day of November into the first week of December. And this is just an example of the specific cohort calendars that we have created. We've tried to be very specific so there wasn't any confusion. And again, we gave you a copy in your materials pickup bags. This will also be posted in this this slides here, and we will also make sure we post it on our website just in case you lose anything or you need to reference it. All right, so let's talk about arrival and what that's going to look like as students come on campus. So students are allowed in the building starting at 7:35 in the morning. If you remember a while back that year-round schools added 15 minutes onto their daily schedule due to the fact of tracking in and out and making sure that we had the equal number of minutes of instruction as a traditional school does, knowing that our year and days got cut short. So they added 10 minutes on in the morning time for us and 5 in the afternoon. So our first bell and students will be able to come on campus starting at 7:35 in the morning. We do ask that students not be dropped off or arrive on campus any earlier than 7:35, as every student will have to be screened prior to coming into the building. Students will be considered tardy after the 8:05 bell. So they have from 7:35 to 8:05 to get on campus and to get to their first period class. So the district is asking that all students are screened at home or taken a temperature taken at home prior to coming to school. And we ask that students stay home if for one of these three bullets, if they have tested positive for COVID-19 and not met the criteria for returning to school, they've recently had close contact with a person with COVID-19, and if they have a temperature of 100.4 or higher. So if you take your student's temperature at home and it's over 100.4, your student should not be coming to campus. Also, the symptoms below that you see at the bottom of the screen, your student should also not be coming to school if they have any of these symptoms going forward. Of course, that's fever or chills, a new cough that's not related to allergies, some shortness of breath, of course, loss of taste or smell. So this screen will be, this slide will be available for you to reference if you have any questions as far as what that home screening should look like. So what does the screening look like once they get on campus? All students, as like I said, will be screened prior to entering the building. All of our screenings will take place outside. The screening includes a temperature check and a few short questions that we will be asking the students. If students do not pass the screening, unfortunately, they will not be allowed in the building, and they will be escorted to what we're calling our care center or our care room. Parents will be called at that time, and students will have to be picked up by their parent. They're not able to ride Wake County Transportation home if they're not able to pass the screening. We do have a link here for you to read further if you have any questions or just need additional information in regards to screening. So we have 3 areas in which we'll be screening. It will be, of course, at our carpool area, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It'll be at our bus loop area, and it'll be out front for our walkers. So those are the 3 areas that we will be screening students outside prior to them entering the building. So what does it look like for carpool? Our carpool students are asked, we ask all our families to follow the process and the map that we have created for them, not dropping off in front of the school, but actually going through the carpool loop in the back of the school. We're asking our students to remain in their vehicles while being screened. And so our staff members will be screening and asking the questions, taking the temperature and asking the questions why the students are still in the vehicle. And then all students should be wearing a mask anytime they're on campus, and that includes their vehicle. If once they pass the screen, they can exit their vehicle and enter the building. And if not, they will have to be taken home by their parent at that time. So our bus riders, if your student is planning to ride the bus, every student or family needs to complete an attestation form. And this is a one-time fill out, basically promising that you will do the home screening before the student enters the bus. Excuse me, if by chance we are asking, I don't believe they're even up yet, but hopefully it's coming very soon as we start back next week. But you should continue to check Power Schools for your route number and stop. Once students get off the bus here or unload the bus here on campus, our students will be screened. We have floor signage at the bus loop as well, where their temperature will be taken and the short questions for them to enter the enter campus or enter the building. And students are only supposed to ride the bus in which they are assigned. So for our walkers, all of our walkers and our bike riders will enter the front entrance. And this is a little different than what it has been in the past. In the past, we have walkers coming from all different areas around our building, and we're able to come in different doors. But due to COVID-19 and trying to help with the health screening, we are asking all of our walkers and our our bike riders to enter the front door only. Again, we have ground markers out front for students to line up, and we will have staff members at the front of the building doing the screening before students can enter. Our walkers and bike riders will enter and exit at dismissal through the front doors. So let's talk about our meals here really quickly. We have a couple of videos in these slides that we're obviously not going to show, but for our breakfast students, all students eating breakfast as soon as they arrive on campus and come through the doors, they should go immediately to the cafeteria. For breakfast and lunch is free for all students, at least until the end of December, and we'll let you know if that continues into the next semester. So they don't need to share their student ID number or their lunch number in order to get breakfast. Breakfast, like I said, is a grab and go. Students will continue to keep their materials with them, their backpacks on. They'll enter the cafeteria one direction. We have floor markings in the cafeteria as well. They will grab their breakfast and they will exit the cafeteria and go straight to their homeroom. Lunch is going to be served in their classrooms. So students will be eating in the classrooms to begin with. And we were going to reflect on our processes and procedures after the 3-week rotation to see if we need to make any changes. But to begin with, we're going to have students eat within our classrooms. As I mentioned, both breakfast and lunch are free to all students if they choose to get breakfast from our cafeteria. We have built-in times where students will be able to wash their hands, or will wash their hands before lunch and after lunch. They will also have opportunities to wash their hands often throughout the day. So let's talk about our classroom health and what their classrooms are going to look like. One of the things that all of our students, our teachers have been working hard to set up their classrooms to make sure that students will be seated 6 feet apart at all times. There have been hand sanitizer dispensers, excuse me, in every single classroom. They're also next to our doors of exiting and enter. And as I mentioned, students will be washing their hands before and after eating lunch and after breakfast as well. We want to make sure that we and communicate with all of our families, especially of our students, that our water fountains will be closed for direct use. Students are encouraged to bring their water bottles. I want to give a special shout out to our PTA, who has purchased 2 water bottle filling stations at our water fountains for students to fill up their water bottles. We do have some donated water bottles here if students come without a water bottle. We have a limited amount, but we do have some that we're able to share. We encourage your students to make sure that they label and put their name on their water bottle, and they'll be able to have that with them at all times. Classrooms will also have cups in their classrooms in case we run out of the extra water bottles to help students get water, but they will not be able to drink straight from the water fountain. So let's talk about dismissal and what that's going to look like. So our dismissal time, as I mentioned, is at 3:05. We do want to make sure that you pick up your student no later than 3:25 to make sure that there's adequate supervision for all of our students. So our students, we're going to be utilizing carpool numbers for our carpool this year to help with social distancing and make sure that we are following the safety guidelines. Our students will be dismissed from the cafeteria. We will have staff members out at carpool and calling in numbers. We were giving out carpool numbers during materials pickup. We are also going to have staff members available once students return in the morning times to be handing and assigning carpool numbers to our families if you have not already received one. excuse me, the parents will be asked to hang their carpool number up in the rearview mirror. We'll be using walkie-talkies to call into the cafeteria, where students will be dismissed and they will be social distanced in the cafeteria, and then we'll proceed out to the carpool loop in order to exit the building. So our bus riders are going to be called from their classes. As I mentioned earlier, depending on the transition, we have worked very hard that we have designated different pathways within our building, and so students are only moving in one direction in the hallway if at all possible. So buses will be called, and students will remain in their classroom until their route is called. Once those routes are out, please make sure that your student is familiar and knows what route. Obviously, buses numbers can change often, so don't depend on the bus number depending on the bus that comes, but the routes won't change. We will say, and we'll see how things go, that the drop-off time for the afternoon could vary a little bit depending on how quickly we are able to dismiss and how quickly bus drivers are able to get your student home. All right, and then as I mentioned before, that our walkers will be exiting from the front door as well as our bike riders, and that's the only exit that they should be exiting. What we'll be asking students to do is going around the building depending on which direction they need to go. But again, we're asking all of our walkers and bike riders to exit from the front door. So that information there like I said, is what we're utilizing to review with our students. We will be posting this and we'll be emailing this for you as well. And as I mentioned before, we do have all of that within on Spanish as well for our Spanish-speaking families. So let's just talk about some dates to remember really quickly. I've already said tomorrow, November 3rd is election day, but it's also a remote learning and asynchronous day for us. November 4th is your deadline for Virtual Academy. So if that's something that you are interested for your student to be in Virtual Academy for the spring semester, that it's imperative that you sign up for that no later than Wednesday, November 4th. November 6th is our 6th grade sync up, welcoming our students and letting them get acclimated into our building. November 9th is return to in-person learning for our cohort 3C students. We talked about November 11th being Veterans Day, which is a holiday, so there's no school, there's no live meets, and there's no asynchronous learning that day. Believe it or not, November 16th is interim week, so it is already time for your students to be receiving their interims. Talked about that November 23rd and 24th, that Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving are remote learning days, and then the 25th to the 27th is a holiday for our students. These are links to the two resources that I mentioned. The first link there are the slides that we just shared with you. The second link is a document that also has a table of contents that we're hoping that is going to be very helpful for you, and it is Durant Road Middle School specific. We're not going to click on it right now, but there's a column for students and then there's a column for parents. So it's what your student needs to know as they return to campus, and it's what parents might need to know and to answer some questions. So we really encourage you to take some time to look through this. It's a great reference guide. There is a lot of information that's come out, so if you think, oh, I forgot what arrival is going to look like, it is alphabetized. So if you have a question about buses, for example, you can click on buses at the top and it'll bookmark it and take you right to that section of the resource. So we just want to let you know that we have created these two resources for you, and hopefully it'll be helpful as we transition to in-person learning. The last thing we want to do is give you a quick shout out to encourage you to join the PTA. Our goal is to have 100% for parents and staff. I will say that we're excited that we have 88% of our staff members that have joined the PTA, and I will say that we are shooting for 100%, and we encourage you to do that as well, and you could do that on the PTA site. And then we just want to encourage you to continue to follow us on any type of social media and to utilize our website, that we'll continue to keep that as updated as possible, answer any questions, also let you know how things are going at our school. So that is it for the Facts with Faircloth this evening. I want to thank you for joining us. Mr. Kleiber, Ms. Edwards, I don't know if there's any pressing questions that happen to go into the chat that maybe I did not answer.
Ms. Faircloth, yes, there is a question, and it is, if a student has to stay home due to illness or to quarantine, will they be given the option to learn remotely during that time to avoid absences?
So that's a great question, and there's layered answers to that I want to be careful of how I answer that right now. What I'm going to ask you to do is to go to the Return to Campus guide. It spells out, depending on when you are absent or why you're absent, if you're still able to access learning. For example, if it's your time to be in person, what we can't do is make the decision if I'm just not going to go to school that day and I'm going to log into virtual learning, and that is due to class sizes and those things. However, if someone does have to quarantine for a period of time, we will provide you opportunity for your student to continue to learn. But I do really encourage you to go and read the resource, especially in that area, because there are many, it's a very layered answer and many answers to that question. Do we think that's it? Okay.
That's all the questions we have, Ms. Faircloth.
Perfect. All right. So we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We are here to support you and to make all of our transitions as smooth as possible for, like I said, all of our students and our families. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I will say we were going to email these slides to you, as well as links to the resources and an FAQ. Thank you again for joining us, and please don't hesitate to let us know if we can help you in any way. Have a good night.